The Rachel Maddow Show, weeknights at 9 Eastern on MSNBC.
Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. local time. This past Sunday, a local TV show in St. Louis, Missouri, posts online a taped interview with the Republican candidate for U.S. Senate in Missouri. He had just won his primary earlier this month. He's the Republican challenger trying to unseat Democratic Senator Claire McCaskill.
If it's a legitimate rape, the female body has ways to try to shut that whole thing down.
That was 10:30 a.m. local time, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday. By about 2 o'clock that afternoon, Talking Points Memo had written up the Republican candidate's comments. They put it under this headline: Republican Senate nominee, victims of legitimate rape don't get pregnant. And then it was just a matter of time rapidly ticking by. As of Monday at 10:30 a.m., Republican Senator Scott Brown was first out of the gate. He releases a statement saying Mr. Aiken should resign the nomination for U.S. Senate. That was 10:30 a.m. By 12:11 p.m., just after noon, it is Wisconsin Republican Senator Ron Johnson. Todd Aiken's statements are reprehensible and inexcusable. He should step aside today. By 1:30 p.m., it's the National Republican Senate Committee. Over the next 24 hours, Congressman Aiken should carefully consider what is best for him, his family, the Republican Party, and the values that he cares about and has fought for throughout his career in public service. Then, half hour later, Karl Rove's PACs pull their ads from Todd Aiken. Then, just moments later, just after 2 p.m., that National Republican Senate Campaign Committee decided to go beyond its statement from a few minutes earlier, and they decided to pull their ads for Todd Aiken as well. They pulled $5 million worth of ads. Then, by 2:30 p.m., the top Republican in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, pulled his support for Todd Aiken, too. Quote, I believe he should take time with his family to consider whether this statement will prevent him from effectively representing our party in that critical election. That's 2:30 p.m. By 3 o'clock p.m., Reince Priebus, the leader of the Republican Party, says, if it was me, I would step aside. It's an hour later when Republican Charlie Summers, who's also running for Senate in the great state of Maine, he says Todd Aiken should resign effective immediately. Less than an hour and a half later, at 5:30 p.m., the head of one of the AstroTurfy Tea Party groups says he should step down and give conservatives a chance at taking back the Senate in November. That was all on Monday. Then it was time to wake up on Tuesday morning. Hello, it's 11 a.m. and Republican Governor Scott Walker of Wisconsin is jumping in too. Yes, Todd Aiken should step down. By 11:50 a.m., less than an hour later, Republican Senator Richard Burr of North Carolina, I urge Todd Aiken to do the right thing and withdraw from the Missouri Senate race right now. 10 minutes later, at noon, Republican Senator Olympia Snowe of Maine is clear as bell. Quote, Congressman Aiken cannot and should not represent the Republican Party in this fall's general election. Just moments later, speaking on a radio show, Republican Senator John McCain says this guy should drop out. 10 minutes later, at 12:15 p.m., Republican Senator Kelly Ayotte, the freshman from New Hampshire, she piles on and says Aiken should step aside now. By 1 o'clock, 45 minutes later, there's a new joint statement. A joint statement from one sitting Republican senator from Missouri and 4 former Republican senators in Aiken State in Missouri. And they say, quote, the right decision is to step aside. 2 hours later, 3 o'clock, Rush Limbaugh on his old-timey radio hour says Todd Aiken must put the nation and its future ahead of everything else that he's considering. And I hope he comes to the right conclusion. At 4:10 p.m., after all that, after initially only disagreeing with and then chastising Todd Aiken, after 36 hours of everybody else and their mother in Republican politics saying this guy has to go, finally, 36 hours into it, Mitt Romney, the Republican presidential nominee, finally joins in and calls for Todd Aiken to step down, saying, quote, I think Todd Aiken should exit the Senate race. After that, at 4:10, at 5:30, we got a statement from Republican Congressman Pete Sessions of Texas. He's the head of the House Republican Campaign Committee. He said, I believe that winning the race would mean that Todd would not be that candidate that would be on the ballot. In other words, get out. Less than an hour later, 6:20 p.m., Orrin Hatch then says Todd Aiken should step aside today. That's what you call a unified front, and a fast one, right? But do you notice a pattern there of who you weren't hearing from? Who isn't calling for Todd Aiken to get out of the Missouri Senate race? Democrats. And on liberal websites, it's not just an absence of calls for Todd Akin to get out of the race. It's unbridled glee over the prospect of Todd Akin staying in the race. It's the conservatives who are on him to get out. Fox News hosts telling him to get out. Fox News pundits telling him to get out. More Fox News hosts telling him to get out. The guy who's now only on the internet machine, Glenn Beck, it's him telling him to get out. It's right-wing talk radio. It's all on the right that they are saying that Todd Akin should get out of the race. Liberals want him to stay. Liberals, of course, want this guy as the Republican candidate in that Senate race for obvious reasons. Todd Akin's Democratic opponent, Senator Claire McCaskill, she is not rushing to push him out either.
It's not my place to decide. It is the people of Missouri. And I think the people of Missouri have to make this decision. They had a hotly contested three-way primary, and Todd Akin won by a comfortable margin. I really think that for the National Party to try to come in here and dictate to the Republican primary voters that they're going to invalidate their decision, that would be pretty radical, and I think there could be a backlash for the Republicans if they did that.
There is a reason Claire McCaskill, the Democrat, is all but wearing an "I'm for Todd Akin" pin on her lapel in public appearances, right? I mean, Todd Akin is not an accidental candidate in this race. Todd Akin is Claire McCaskill's hand-picked opponent for her Senate race. During the primary, the McCaskill campaign ran this ad going on and on and on about how many departments in the federal government old Todd Akin wanted to cut and all about his pro-family values. Todd Akin, Missouri's true conservative. Hear that, Republican primary voters in an overwhelmingly Republican state? The McCaskill for Senate Democratic campaign waded into the Republican primary to try to get Republican voters to pick Todd Akin, because if you're running against a guy like that, well, forget the Missouri headwinds, Democratic candidate. Congratulations. I mean, against a more sane-seeming Republican opponent, you might not have had a chance in Missouri. But against Todd Akin, you're going to be fine. I mean, at a surface level, this Todd Akin brouhaha looked like it was bad for the Republican Party, right? I mean, Republican doing embarrassing thing, that must be bad for the party. But very quickly, if you just scratch the surface, it was obvious that this could turn out great for the Republicans. I mean, if they could use this as an excuse to force Todd Akin out of that race, then the Republicans could replace with a better candidate this guy who was probably the weakest candidate that they had. Probably the weakest candidate that they had in any theoretically winnable Senate race in the country. And of course, big bonus. In pushing Todd Akin out, the Republicans would get to make a big show out of expunging from the party this one guy. Casting out this one bad apple with this one crazy position on abortion, as if Todd Akin himself is the only abortion extremism problem in today's Republican Party. He's not, of course, but they would love for it to be reported like that. And so you got that well-timed, very fast cascade of coordinated Republican reaction, a unified front against him. Throwing Todd Akin out of the party was supposed to be a win-win for the Republicans. You get rid of one of your weakest candidates in an important Senate race, and you also paint him as the only guy in the party who is an extremist on women's issues, thus making you guys who are left look less extremist because of his absence. And, you know, frankly, it looked like it really was going to be a win-win for them at the beginning of the week. It looked like they were going to be able to pull this off. But then it just all fell apart, all of it. I mean, first of all, Todd Akin is not getting out of the race. Mr. Akin, in fact, apparently held a power summit last night in Florida at the site of the Republican convention with some of the biggest names on the social conservative right. So not only is Todd Akin not getting out of this race, he's now rallying the troops and getting himself more support and inevitably more publicity. Now that Republicans realize he is not getting out, they're essentially writing off their chances of winning that Missouri seat. They are looking for other states that they might maybe be able to pick up instead in their attempt to take control of the Senate. Could old Tommy Thompson maybe win Wisconsin? Maybe? Please. Oh, God, this is a mess. I can't believe Todd Akin's staying in. So, yeah, Todd Akin is staying in. He is not getting out of the race. That's their first big problem. But the other part of this whole strategy, remember I said it was a win-win? The first win, the second win is even worse for them, the way that has fallen apart. And this whole idea of casting Todd Akin as the one crazy guy thing, that part has failed even harder. This week was supposed to be a ceremonial sacrifice of Todd Akin as a way to free the party of the taint of abortion extremism. Everybody talk about how crazy Todd Akin is and denounce him. And we'll all denounce him together. And when we get rid of him, we'll look like we took care of our crazy problem. It'll look like we're not crazy. That has not worked. because it turns out nobody believes that Todd Akin is an outlier. As the Huffington Post noted yesterday, there are more than 40 Republican House and Senate candidates other than Todd Akin who, like him, want to ban abortion access even for women who get pregnant because of rape or incest. So this is not the Todd Akin problem. This is the Todd Akin party. When local news outlets in important swing states like Pennsylvania covered the Todd Akin controversy this week, listen to how they covered it.
Ryan, like Romney, distanced himself from Akin's remarks, but in Congress he joined Akin in opposing abortions even when a woman has been raped.
Should abortions be available to women who are raped?
Well, look, I'm proud of my pro-life record, and I stand by my pro-life record in Congress.
In Congress, Paul Ryan joined Todd Akin. This attempt to paint Todd Akin as an isolated problem, as the one bad apple in the party, it has not gone according to plan over these last few days. And that's because, A, the press has done its job, and B, the Republican Party's position on this issue really is the Todd Akin position. I mean, they put it in the Republican Party platform this week. The party's platform on the issue of abortion adopts for the entire party the Todd Akin policy of no exceptions, no empathy for rape and incest victims. Since this is the party that's about to nominate Mitt Romney, and since Mitt Romney's campaign was all over the platform process, does this mean the Romney campaign is running their presidential ticket on Todd Akin's abortion policy?
As far as our platform is concerned, I mean, this is the platform of the Republican Party. It's not the platform of Mitt Romney.
Oh, the Republican Party platform? That has nothing to do with the Republican Party's presidential nominee. RNC Chairman Reince Priebus, if you didn't exist, somebody would have to make you up. RNC Communications Director Sean Spicer, he's another one. He made another try at that same issue this morning. This was even better. This was his answer on the Republican Party having a platform on abortion that is the same as Todd Akin's platform on abortion. No exceptions for rape and incest. Watch.
Our platform is just a simple set of principles. There's no additional language. So to talk about exceptions or whatever is just not found in the platform.
Our platform not having rape exceptions in it doesn't mean there aren't any rape exceptions in it. I know we say we're banning abortions and there's no exceptions. It doesn't mean there's no exceptions. You want to try that again? When vice presidential nominee Paul Ryan was grilled on the fact that his policy on abortion is the exact same as Todd Akin's policy on abortion, here was Paul Ryan's answer.
Mitt Romney is the top of the ticket, and Mitt Romney will be president, and he will set the policy of the Romney administration.
So the Republican Party's response so far to the allegation that the Romney-Ryan ticket embodies the same exact views of Todd Akin, that Todd Akin is not just some lone nut, right? Their response so far has been, don't worry that Paul Ryan shares those views. Paul Ryan has no chance of ever being president. That's why you should elect him vice president. Also, the Republican Party's platform, that has nothing to do with the Republican Party's nominee. And just because the platform has no mention of rape exemptions in it doesn't mean there aren't rape exemptions in it. Romney campaign is also now refusing to comment on reports that the anti-abortion doctor from whom Todd Akin learned his views on rape and pregnancy, that doctor has met personally with Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan in recent months. This doctor was a prominent Mitt Romney surrogate when he ran for president the last time in 2008. Todd Akin has cited this guy by name as the source of his beliefs about rape and pregnancy, and the Romney campaign has been happy to denounce Todd Akin and say these ideas are crazy. But they have not shot down any of these reports about meeting with the guy from whom Todd Akin got the crazy theory. They're just refusing to respond. It is radio silence. They're not denying it. They're not explaining it. They're not saying anything about it. The whole strategy of portraying Todd Akin as an isolated problem, thinking they could run the whole Republican Party against Todd Akin for their own political benefit, that strategy has failed. And the confirmation of that came in rather glorious fashion earlier today.
Political specialist Sean Boyd just finished an interview with Romney just literally a couple of minutes ago. Sean's with me now. And Sean, you were one of only 4 local reporters to get to talk to him. And what did you ask him?
You know, I had about 5 minutes with him, and we got through a fair amount of material, actually, in that 5 minutes. The one stipulation to the interview was that I not ask him about abortion or Todd Akin. He's the Missouri Republican who created a firestorm after saying women's bodies shut down in a legitimate rape to prevent pregnancy.
The one stipulation to the interview was that I not ask him about abortion or Todd Akin. How did this happen? I mean, if this was working the way it was supposed to be working, when the Republicans cooked up this obviously coordinated plan for dealing with Todd Akin, they would be scheduling interviews for Mitt Romney to talk about Todd Akin, right? To talk about how crazy Todd Akin is and how much he disagrees with him, right? That's how you would maybe win that whole allegation over the war on women thing. By expunging somebody from your own party and denouncing extremism and promoting your comparative moderation. That's how you might turn this to appeal to women, right? That's kind of what was supposed to be the good side of this policy for you of throwing Todd Akin off the ballot, right? You get him off that ballot, so maybe you can win that race, but you also get to look like the guy standing up for women's rights by going after Todd Akin. Instead,
the one stipulation to the interview was that I not ask him about abortion or Todd Akin.
That was quick. You know, I sort of hate campaign books now. But when the campaign book is written about the Mitt Romney campaign in 2012, there is going to be a chapter on whose genius idea it was to try to turn the Todd Akin issue into a Republican asset. This big coordinated campaign the week before the Republican convention, and how its backfire completely screwed up any other effort at Republican messaging in the week between picking their vice president and their nominating convention. Who came up with this idea to try to message this Todd Akin story this way? Who came up with this idea? My money is on Eric Fernstrom. Mr. Fernstrom, I'd be happy to talk about it with you if you'd like to call anytime.